How are we tested? Proverbs chapter 27 and verse 21 makes an interesting observation. It says this: the crucible for silver and the furnace for gold, but people are tested by their praise. Well, that's an interesting twist, because you think about when the heat's turned up in the furnace and gold is refined or silver is refined, impurities rise to the surface, weaknesses are exposed. And so when you hear that, do you expect the second part of this proverb to say what it says? It says the crucible for silver and the furnace for gold, but people are tested by, wouldn't you expect that to say suffering, trials, persecution? People are tested when their boss gives them an impossible assignment. People are tested by when they get a call and it's a cancer diagnosis. People are tested by inability to have children, struggles in marriage, not being happy with where they're at in life. But instead it says that we're tested by our praise. Well, think about that. Some people live for praise. But here the Proverbs, a book of literature, a wisdom book, a book that tells us how to have skill to live this life, we're tested by praise. And you think about what happened in the life of Jesus. Head into Holy Week and start thinking about how on one day they were singing, Hosanna, Hosanna in the highest. And a few days later they're chanting, Crucify Him, Crucify Him. But Jesus, when he was praised, he wasn't seeking out the praise. The crowd's praise did not control Jesus' behavior. Instead, he would slip away to pray. Or in John chapter 6, they try to make him king by force. But he's so anchored in his Father's will that that's not the temptation for him. And so then he goes and he spends time with the Father. He wasn't fueled by the applause. He was anchored to his Father. And then you think about for us, what do we do when praise comes? Some people act like praise is something you shouldn't receive, as somehow you're stealing glory from God. Well, you're not. And God's made you an image bearer. He's given you gifts and abilities, and ultimately they do point to Him, but you've taken responsibility and initiative to use those gifts, and you can receive credit for that. How do you do that without the credit crushing you? How do you do it in a way that you'd pass the test? Remember, the proverb says this: the crucible for silver and the furnace for gold, but people are tested by their praise. So what do? Well, you receive it without building your identity on it. That's the first thing. What people say that you are isn't necessarily what you are. However, sometimes they will see your life. They will see the works that you do. Lord willing, they glorify your Father who's in heaven. Matthew chapter 5, verses 14 through 16. But it doesn't mean that every time you score a touchdown, every time you did something that was above and beyond in a project at work, every time that you serve in a way that gets recognized, that you have to, bow down on one knee and say, oh, Jesus did that. It's not wrong to do that. It's just sometimes we do that because of our own insecurity. How can you be so formed inside that the praise doesn't control you? Sure, it's encouraging. Everybody wants to be encouraged. Everybody wants to be seen. Everybody wants to be heard. But one of the ways that you do it is you stay accountable. There's another proverb that says, as iron sharpens iron, so one man strengthens another. Because when you have to have that praise, you become very vulnerable to what the Bible calls flattery. And people will say words actually to get things from you. They'll say words to you to manipulate you to do what they want. They'll say words. You ever get this before? Somebody compliments you, then a big criticism, then they give you another compliment. They're just giving you that kind of compliment sandwich. And they're actually trying to manipulate you. The praise isn't genuine. But then sometimes people do give you praise, and then it builds you up, and you start thinking your own press release, and you become proud, and you become vulnerable. There's another proverb that says that pride comes before the fall. How can you be so formed that the praise doesn't control you in a negative way to be manipulated, in a negative way to inflate your own self-ego, and a desire to steal God's glory, the very sin that Satan himself did, fell from heaven? It's in Isaiah chapter 14. The very temptation that Eve faced in the garden: eat this fruit and you'll be like God. How can you be so strong that that's not the thing that controls you? Well, that happens in your formation. Look at what Jesus did. He slipped off for times of prayer. He wasn't controlled by the crowd's praise. So keep doing the unseen work that builds your inner formation. If you need the applause, you'll eventually compromise to keep it. What do you think? If you like this information, if you thought it was helpful to you, if you think someone else would be blessed by it, I'd encourage you to hit the like button, comment. If you disagree with some of what I said, I'd love to have that conversation as well. And hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything like this, perhaps even the bell notification button so you don't miss any of the videos that we release. I hope you're blessed. I want you to stay unleashed and on mission until the next time we talk.